Okay, so let's talk about some of what happened last week in the state of Florida because we want to get through that. We're going to be running out of time here very shortly. A couple of big stories. I don't know if you saw, this is kind of the smallest of them, but Disney has now lifted the mask mandate at the Disney World parks, which has been in place for over 2 years. So this is the first time in 2 years you can go to Walt Disney World and not wear a mask anywhere, thank goodness. And I wonder if they're doing this because they're currently being boycotted by so many people, and they better get some people to show up at their park.
I've got to tell you something. I look in the Disney retirement calendar for blackout dates where you can't go into the park.
Yeah.
It's always yellow or red. Listen, it's all blue, wide open the entire month.
Wide open. A lot of people are boycotting.
I've never ever seen that.
Well, I mean,
interesting.
I've seen a lot of people talking about boycotting, and I guess that means they're not going to the park. So that, I mean, you know, these companies, they want to have some involvement in our state's politics, and this is Governor DeSantis's point. Governor DeSantis, the greatest governor in the United States, his point is the state of Florida, the government of the state, is reserved to the people of Florida, not to some big company. Just because you have a huge economic interest here, you don't get to tell us how to run our state. And that's what he did last week. He called a special session of the Florida legislature. They stood up to Disney. They took away Disney's special governing district, the Reedy Creek District. It's been in existence since 1967. So it's been in existence for almost 50 years. Now I know,
right.
Pat
Yes.
George. Now I know. Been in existence almost 50 years. They took that away. That bill passed the Senate, passed the House, and the governor signed it on Friday. So Disney's now just like every other corporation. And when you think about it, why shouldn't they be? Why should they have this special district that they control? They don't have to deal with any taxes. They don't have to deal with any permitting requirements or anything else, just like all the other people who might want to have a theme park, like, say, Universal Studios. They have to comply with all of the local requirements. Legoland, they have to comply with all the local requirements. But Disney, for so many years, has not had to. Then they decided to wade in with both feet into Florida politics because they've got a woke CEO who wants to be involved in it. And guess what? He's getting stung now. The shareholders of Disney have lost something like $35 billion of value just in this time period where they've been getting into Florida politics. So maybe they ought to stop. You know, maybe they ought to take a little page from history and don't involve themselves directly in Florida politics. It's none of their business. It's the business of the people of the state of Florida. But boy, did that draw a lot of ire last week. That and one other thing. Now, here's the Florida Legislative Chamber during the attempt to vote to take away Disney's special governing status. Listen to these folks yelling. See if we can get it.
And we will vote on these two bills. It is my hope that we will be able to proceed civilly and with decorum and with respect for one another. Read the next bill.
By Senator Bradley, Senate Bill 4C, a bill to be entitled an act relating to independence.
Okay, it keeps going like that. You can hear that. I mean, this is the Democrats, the unhinged Democrats. They can't even behave themselves. If they can't win a vote democratically, they claim to be Democrats, right? They can't win a vote by the numbers. They switch tactics and they try to shout people down. They try to cancel people. And this just goes on and on. And I tell you, to me, it's disgusting. It's not the way that you behave in a legislative body. And, you know, if the Republicans were doing this, I mean, the media would be up in arms about that kind of behavior. But since it's the Democrats, actually the media, the corporate media, supports that kind of behavior and says, well, look, they're standing up to Governor DeSantis, the autocrat, you know, the Putin-esque autocrat. I mean, this is the kind of language we're hearing from some of these commentators like Nicole Wallace talking about Glenn Youngkin in Virginia and Governor DeSantis in the state of Florida dehumanizing people just like the Russians who get their soldiers, she says, to rape children. Okay, she's comparing Governor DeSantis to somebody who dehumanizes and rapes children, which, by the way, is probably a fabricated story about the Russians. But leaving that aside, I mean, this is the kind of tone that the corporate media takes, and it's really no surprise at all why so much of our country doesn't trust the corporate media. They are the enemy of the people because they're feeding you propaganda and misinformation, untruths. It's narrative engineering. They're trying to get you to think about these subjects in a certain way, and they're force-feeding it to you. And that's what our guest who's coming up in the next segment is going to tell us some about, because he's been looking behind some of this media propaganda and getting to the truth of the real story about what's going on in Ukraine. So in the next segment, if you're interested in the Ukraine war, you're going to want to stick around and hear what we have to share with you here on the Morgan Streetman Show. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.